Okay, good morning. I want to talk about the minhag of blowing shofar during Elul and shofar b'chlal, but I want to talk about it in a specific context. So I think everybody's bakant that shofar blowing is like the, so to speak, the highlight of the day of Rosh Hashanah and of the let's say the battle between the forces of good and the forces of evil in regards to what kind of year we're going to have. It's like the moment, the pivotal moment, the inflection point of the day of Rosh Hashanah. Now, there's a story that I once heard about the Kedushas Levi, Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev, that there was once a get-together of I guess practitioners of the occult, Galachim or whatever, who got together to have their own meeting on Rosh Hashanah by day to undermine the Tkiyas of Klal Yisrael. That's how the story is told. And that day, no Baal Tekeya anywhere, no Chazan anywhere was having an easy time getting it out. Everyone who tried to blow was struggling to get the Tkiyas out. Everyone who tried to daven for the Amud was struggling. It wasn't working out for anybody. And the Kedushas Levi, who knew what was going on, he held off from blowing his Tkiyas until mamash late in the day. He waited until things settled down, until this group of Galachim were done what they were doing. Lamaisa, towards the end of the day, they were still going, and he says, okay, it's time to blow Tkiyas. So he takes out a shofar, and he tries to blow, and nothing happens. He takes the shofar, he bangs it on the ground, and he says, Ivan, so you blow then, so you blow. He puts the shofar down. And then he takes another shofar up, picks it up, and he tries to blow, and again, nothing comes out. He puts it down, he bangs it on the floor. He says, so Peter, you blow. You want to blow, so you blow. He picks up a third shofar, and this time, again, he's squeezing out a drop of a coil, and he puts it down, he bangs it on the floor, and he says, so Alexander, you blow. Alex, you blow. And then he picks up his fourth shofar, he blows it, and the coil comes out, crisp, strong, and clear, and he bangs out the 100 kaiches, the 100 kailas that he's supposed to have for Rosh Hashanah, and Klal Yisrael lives happily ever after. Everyone gets the tkiyas, everyone gets what they needed. Now, the Chassidim came over to the Barditchev after davening. They asked him, what was this display about? So he says, I saw that there was this conference of Sainim who were gathered together to try to have their own program in Rosh Hashanah to damage us. And I saw that nobody was getting anywhere, so I waited all the way till the end of the day to confuse them. They shouldn't know what's going on. And then at the end, I forced each one of them out. The three main, powerful people on the other side, I forced them all out through these tekiyas, and by the time I cleared out all of them, I was able to have tekiyas for Klal Yisrael, and that was what he said. Now, to me, the story, I don't know what happened, it didn't happen, that's not what's important. To me, the part of the story that I appreciate is that it highlights in vivid detail, so to speak, the battle that's taking place when Klal Yisrael is blowing shofar. Meaning, we know shofar's blowing is to help Klal Yisrael, and we'll see more in some detail what exactly it has to do with the Satan, but this story puts it in vivid detail, the battle that's taking place between Klal Yisrael, the forces of good, and the forces of evil, as Klal Yisrael is blowing the shofar. For example, I think I mentioned this, but it's bakant, that during Napoleon's battles with the Tsar, so there were rebbes on both sides. There were some rebbes who wanted Napoleon to win, there were some rebbes who wanted Napoleon to lose. The Baal Tanya, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, was famous. He wanted Napoleon to lose. He said that it's better, it's written in a letter like this, he said it's better Klal Yisrael should be poor and frum instead of being rich and fry. That's Pachas Yosef what he said. He said Napoleon will come, Klal Yisrael will have more money, they'll be more free, but they'll be fry. And if they stay under the Tsar, they'll be, downtrodden and poor, but they'll stay frum. And he favored that. Lamashal, others, the Rimanover and the Kazhin Tzemagid, they favored Napoleon winning the battle. They wanted Napoleon to win, bring some liberty and freedom to the Jews who were suffering under the Tsar's empire. Now, it's Yedua that Rosh Hashanah, the Baal Tanya writes this in a letter, that Rosh Hashanah, he writes a letter after Rosh Hashanah saying, Rosh Hashanah by Musaf is when I got the Gilo, he says, Heruli min Hashemayim, that things are going to be better, things are going to turn. And i.e. the Hainu, Napoleon's not going to win, and the Tsar is going to win. Now, granted, the Baal Tanya did not live to see that happen, he died during the war, but Akapanim, this has happened in Rosh Hashanah, and by the Chassidim they say that when the Kazhin Tzemagid, who was the Tzad Shekeneged, who wanted Napoleon to win, got up to Tkiyas on the first day of Rosh Hashanah of that fateful year in 1816 or 1812 or whatever it is, he picked up the shofar and he says, the Litvak at Mishaynais gechapt. The Baal Tanya was deeper into Lita territory. The Litvak at Mishaynais gechapt. Like, but Tkiyas is where the battle over the future, over good, over evil, that's where it takes place. But Tkiyas is where the battle happens. So I wanted to frame it in an interesting way. We know, and we've mentioned some of this in the past, that Ba'atzem, we as Jews, we're aware that there's a Satan, there's a Malach HaMavis, there's Yetzer Hara. We know that there's forces of evil, Kilu, that are arrayed against us. They want a different outcome than what we want. And in general, our posture is that we try not to cheper with him, and we hope that he won't cheper with us. Like we try to give the Satan his space, we don't bother him, and he shouldn't bother us. For example, the Gemara in Kedushin, I think I said this over once in the past, tells a story of an Amayra who used to say, Giri Be'ena the Sitna, used to say, like, I fight for you, the Satan. It says, Yom Echada, it was Mali Yom Kippur, it was Erev Yom Kippur, the Satan came and set a whole elaborate trap for him, and he came into his house. I went through this Gemara, I'm not going to be married on it now, but he set a whole elaborate trap for him, and he almost, caught him, he almost had him, in trouble. Because we don't pick a fight with the Satan. For example, there's a famous Gemara, the Gemara in Sukkah, on the Flamet Ches, and this is rather an interesting tidbit. The Gemara in Sukkah, the Flamet Ches, when it talks about how we do the Nanuim and when we shake the Lulav, the Gemara brings, at the end of the discussion, it brings a memory as follows. It says, Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Mamtulei Maisilei, he would shake it, this way and that way, and Amar, he would say, Dein Gira Be'ena de Sitna. This is like the way we're going to win the Satan. V'lav Milsuhu, the Gemara comments on this, this is not the V'lav Milsu, this is not a good thing. Why Mishum da Asilus Gurebe? The Satan will end up chapping zich with you if you chap zich with him. We don't say, Meilach HaMevi, because this is to chap with the Satan. Because it's gonna leave. Now, I rather saw some Achrayim asked, and how come he did it? The Gemara Tzuk is bringing down that the Samayra, Rav Acha bar Yaakov used to do it. Why would he do it if it's going to chap with the Satan? And I saw such a cute teretz, I'll share it, that there's a Gemara Bab Basra that says that, I think it's Darash Rav, that Satan u'Pnina l'shem Shemayim nischavnu. Satan by Eiv and Prina by the story with her and Chana, both of them had intentions l'shem Shemayim, even if it got out of hand. So it says Darash Rav Acha bar Yaakov b'Papunya. He got up and he darshan this memra over and Barabim. He said over this memra that the Satan l'shem Shemayim nischavnu. So it says Asa Satan, the Satan came v'nashke l'ragle. The Satan came and kissed his feet. So there are those who say that Rav Acha bar Yaakov had a particularly close working relationship with the Satan, meaning him and the Satan had a good sprach with each other. He was less worried that the Satan would be triggered by his challenges. He was able to say, I'm shaking lulav, Meilach HaMevi, and I'm chapping with the Satan. But an average person who doesn't have this good working relationship with the Satan has to be much more careful before he challenges the Satan to anything. So, but mitzad sheni l'mashal, we find the idea of challenging the Satan and fooling the Satan. Now, I'll talk about that in Shofar in a second, but we find l'mashal, the Gemara in Ksubis tells us the story of Rabbi Shua ben Levi. That Rabbi Shua ben Levi was, again, someone who had a working relationship with the Satan, and the Satan, in this case the Malach HaMavis, came it was time to take him, and Rabbi Shua ben Levi asked him, do me a favor before you take me, could you just show me where my chelik in Gan Eden is? Just show me where I'm going. And he says, yeah, I'll do that for you. We had a good relationship for decades, I'll do that for you. So he says he takes him to Gan Eden, he stands by the wall, and Rabbi Shua ben Levi asks him, could you pick me up, show me over the other side of the wall so I could see what's going on? He says, yeah, no problem, but he says, could you put down your sword? Because I'm afraid if you're holding your sword, I don't know what you're going to do to me. He says, yeah, here, hold my sword and I'll pick you up. And he says he picks Rabbi Shua ben Levi up, giving up his sword. Rabbi Shua ben Levi jumps into Gan Eden and he makes a shvuah that I'm not coming out of here. I'm not coming out of Gan Eden anymore. And the Satan says, but I'm supposed to kill you, got to do my job. And Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Baskel, comes out and paskins, if he was nichshel on shvuas pechayav, then take him out of here and he's going to get killed by the Malach HaMavis. If not, he gets to stay. And Badak, they saw that Rabbi Shua ben Levi had always been nizar not to take shvuas very seriously, and he was able to stay in Gan Eden without dying, and that leads to a whole bunch of shilas what the status of Rabbi Shua ben Levi's wife is she mutter, is she considered married to a live person still, and many other nidainim. But Al-Kavan, we see Rabbi Shua ben Levi again challenging the Satan, which is the Yetzer Hara, the Malach HaMavis, all the same character, challenging him, jostling with the Satan for position and getting away with it. Now, the place where we find it, like mamash institutionalized, to chapazich with the Satan, is by tekiyas, is by blowing shofar. Now, I really want to talk about the meaning of blowing shofar during Elul, but I want to just start with the din of shofar and Rosh Hashanah B'chlal. So the din of shofar and Rosh Hashanah B'chlal, everybody knows today we blow 100 blasts of the shofar. Now, everyone knows that midei raisa you don't need to be blowing 100 blasts of a shofar. How we got to 100 blasts is a drop complicated, but I'll give just a short overview of how we got to 100 blasts. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, the Flamet Gimel, says as follows. There's a din that you have to blow the shofar 3 times. The pasuk says the word shofar blowing 3 times, 2 times Rosh Hashanah, 1 time by Shemitah, we make a hekesh, that they all go together, you have to blow 3 times. Now we know the din is, you have to blow a tekiah pshuta, meaning a regular tekiah before you blow the shofar, before and after. So now we have 9 times, meaning you have 3 blasts that need to be blown, together each one sandwiched by a tekiah before it and a tekiah after it, so you have 9 blasts altogether that have to be blown. As I stated in the Gemara. Now the Gemara brings a suffix. We say the pasuk says that you're supposed to blow a trua, a kol trua. Now what is a kol trua? Is a kol trua this type of broken kol that we do, like a shvarim, what we would call a shvarim? Or is a trua this, very broken kol, this 9 different kolos that we do, that we call a trua? The Gemara brings a machlekes, if it's one or the other. Then the Gemara brings a third side, that maybe it's both. Maybe it starts in this, broken kol, and it accelerates into this very, very tortured kol, which is a lot of different kolos going at the same time. And the Gemara says, because we're Mesufik, so it says, Hiskin Ravo was Masakin, that we should blow a tekiah, shvarim, tekiah, terua, tekiah, and tekiah, shvarim, terua, tekiah. Right, so that comes out to instead that's 3, 6, 10. That's 10 blasts altogether. He was misakin to say, because like that you cover all the tzadim. You get all the possible options of blowing shofar, of what it's supposed to be like. Now the Gemara says also that we blow them. I'll say that brachas by malchiyas zechrenis v'shofaris. Now malchiyas zechrenis v'shofaris, so we do that twice because we do during chazaras hashatz and we do it during the quiet part or whatever and the schashkan asvar, the menagim, etc. And then the Gemara also says, Taikin Kishen Yeshvim, Taikin Kishen Emdim. We blow shofar before we even start Shemon Esrei, and we blow shofar again during Shemon Esrei. And on this, the Gemara in the Ftezvav asks the kasha. The Gemara says, and I'll read it for you if I can find it in my pile. The Gemara says, Lama Taikin Kishen Yeshvim, Lama Taikin Kishen. Oh, I have a Gemara Rishon actually. The Gemara says, how can we blow when we stand, and how can we blow when we sit? Why are we doing both of them? So the Gemara says like this. The Gemara starts with Lama Taikin B'Shofar Shalayil. Why do we blow with the shofar from the aisle? The Gemara says, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tku, Tikkel Lefana B'Shofar Shalayil. HaKadosh Baruch Hu instruct us because of a fine. Then Amar it's like Lama Taikin Rosh Hashanah, Lama Taikin Rachman Amar Tku. The Gemara says, why are we blowing? The Torah HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us to blow. Elalam Marian, Rachman Amar Zechron Trua told us to do that also. Elalam Taikin Marian Kishen Yeshvin, V'Taikin Marian Kishen Aimdin. Why do we stand? Meaning, you do it during the brachas, during Shemon Esrei. And why do we sit? You do it before we start the brachas Shemon Esrei and blow shofar again. And this, the Gemara says, it's to mess up the Satan's calculations. It's lahedya to go after the Satan and chaper him. Now, even though I shared with you a bunch of Gemaras that seem like going after the Satan is an invitation for trouble, meaning trying to battle the Satan, openly, face to face, is an invitation to trouble. So you would think that Rosh Hashanah, where we're mamish, Sefer Mesim and Sefer Chaim, Suchum Lefanecha, and we're oimdim mamish on the din, and the Satan, whose main job it is to prosecute Klal Yisrael, like we know in the Psukim, and who is a malach, a constant malach, who's in the Pamal Yishmael at all times, it wouldn't be the time to challenge him, right? It wouldn't be the time to go after the Satan lahedya. And instead, the Gemara Rosh Hashanah says lahedya, we do l'arvis Satan. We pick a fight and l'arvis Satan. Now, the technique is a little different. This that the Gemara says, like Girabein the Sitna, is when you challenge him, like, I'm good, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to, now you try to take me down. That we don't do. But l'arvis Satan is more of like a trick. It's more like a Yeshua ben Levi. It's more the version of Yeshua ben Levi, which is like, I'm going to undermine the Satan, I'm going to fool him at his own game, I'm going to make sure that he's not on good footing, and then I'll be able to beat him at his own game. Now, it's interesting, is that there's like a 3 or 4 way machlekes rishonim in what the l'arvis Satan is. It's a fascinating thing, like the amount of detail that the rishonim have. Now, some of the rishonim are handling more from a technical halachic aspect. Which tkiyas are you yet to the mitzvahs with? Meaning, what are the ikr tkiyas, and which ones are the l'arvis Satan tkiyas? So, Kilo, the Ramban, and the Ravid, and the Balamar are all arguing, are the first tkiyas the main tkiyas, and then l'arvis Satan is the second batch? Is the first batch l'arvis Satan, and the second batch is the thing, or are they both together, l'arvis Satan? That's like a thing about Chizyon. But Taisvis over here says something fascinating. Taisvis says like this. Taisvis brings an aruch. Taisvis says like this. Pirush ba'aruch, the aruch explains, he says, K'de'isa b'Yushalmi, the Yushalmi says, Bila hamavas lanetzach, v'ksiv v'haya b'yemahu yitaka b'shefer gadol. The malach hamavas, which is the Satan, who we know that Lasid Lave, the pasuk says, Bila hamavas lanetzach, he's going to be put totally out of business, is going to be by Lasid Lave. Now, when's that going to happen? It's going to be when the kol shofar blows. V'haya b'yemahu yitaka b'shefer gadol. It says, Kad shama kol shifura, when the Satan hears the shofar, zimna chada one time, bahil. He gets a little bit bahil, v'lay bahil. But nice, he captures himself and he's like, okay, fine, I know what this is. This is Rosh Hashanah. I got it. Okay, fine. I know what my job is now. And he goes running to the Kisei HaKavod to do his job. V'katshama tininan, when he hears it again, Amar vade zuhu shipura di yitka b'shefer gadol. Okay, no, 1 second. Something's wrong over here. Now they're blowing shofar again. This must be that it's already the tzaitim from Lasid Lave and Mashiach's coming. It's my time to be destroyed, to be gotten rid of. It says he gets totally lost track, and he loses track of his whole standing, and now he's not able to argue against Klal Yisrael anymore. Now, what's interesting is that all the other Rishonim handled it from a technical halachic aspect. What are the tkiyas that are important, that are the deraisa that you be mekayim mitzvah, and what are the tkiyas that are the additional tkiyas that are l'arav? The Aruch is talking about like the Satan's like frame of mind, his psychological state. The Aruch is describing like how his psychological state is impacted by the tkiyah shofar, which is a strange thing that Taisus brings from this Aruch. Now I saw it's brought down in the Kotzke, I think it's called Emes V'Tzedek, the Verte that the Kotzke used to say over. The Kotzke used to say that the reason why Taisus brought this here is not because it's so important to us what the therapy bill of the Satan after Rosh Hashanah. That's not our concern. He says the reason why Taisus brought this is to teach you a technique. He says, Lasad Lavi, when you get up to Shemayim, he spoke about himself. He said they're going to hold me in. They're going to say, Menachem Mendel, you knew you were supposed to learn. You were supposed to daven. You were supposed to do things. Why did you waste your time with everything else you were doing? What were you thinking? And he says, I'm going to tell them that, listen, I had kids, I had a wife, I had a family, I had a life. I had to make a parnassa, I had to take care of people. Life happened. Like there was pressing things that kept coming up, and I didn't have time to focus the whole time on what's important. Granted, I knew it was important, but I didn't have time to focus every minute on what's important. And the Satan's going to say, that's your answer. You knew what was important. Your answer is that I got caught up in whatever, narishkeit of the day, for that. You left Chai Olam for Chai Yesha. And he says, the Kotzke used to say, you're going to be able to look the Satan dead in the eye, and you're going to tell him, when people call it, when you hear loud koilos and things get vild and wild and you start worrying, you don't lose track of your job. You also lose track of your job when things get vild and you start hearing people calling and you're not sure what's going on. So don't hold this against me, that when my kids needed something and my wife needed something and my kahila, my whatever needed something, I lost track of my priorities and I got busy with other things. You're no better. He says, and the Satan's going to have to nod his head and be maskim. You're right. I've also been known to lose track of my stability when things get busy. And then he's right. So he says, Taisus is telling you this. The Kotzke say Taisus is telling you this aruch to give you a technique. When it comes, the Yom Hadin, you'll be able to answer the Satan on his own terms. Now, this din, that it's kilu medina de Gemara, that we're saying it's built in, that we're ma'arv of the Satan. We try to fool the Satan and trick the Satan. Now, this is not brought down in the Mishnah B'chlal to blow K'shayim Kishen Yeshvin. It's only brought down in this Gemara. And there's Machlekes Rishonim if this was Me'ikr Adin, like this was already b'time the Tanaim they did this, or this was a later din b'time the Amiram that they started doing this. And I guess the nafkamina would be, meaning how integral to the Tkiyah Shofar is this. But Akapanim, as far as we're concerned, Mimei Chazal ve'elach, from then and on, this has been the minhag in Klal Yisrael. Always that we blow Kishen Yeshvin, and we do this whole amalgamation of 100 tkiyas to be Yotze every day. But built into the whole being Yotze every day, more so than just being Yotze all the days of what the tkiyas is supposed to be, we're also built in, we're attacking the Satan, we're being Ma'arv v'Satan. Now, there's many more Irvav HaSatans, these trying to trick the Satan that take place during Elul, that become like part of the basic plan. For example, on the Rosh Chodesh, we don't announce the month of Rosh Chodesh Tishrei in advance. We don't want the Malach HaMavos to know that. We don't want the Satan to know that Tishrei is coming. For example, on Rosh Hashanah itself, we make no mention of the fact that it's Rosh Chodesh. Every other Yom Tov or Shabbos, when something has a dual carbon or a dual whatever, we mention both of them, right? We say it's this and it's that, and we do both of them. On Rosh Hashanah, no mention of Rosh Chodesh, because somehow we're hoping, and this is brought down in Rishonim, somehow we're hoping that we could fool him. He just won't chap that it's Rosh Hashanah. Taka Rosh Hashanah is really just a longer Shabbos Musaf. It's not like in Kippur. It's not Azal Langa davening. It's a shorter davening. He just doesn't chap. Today they had Kavana. The Satan's not going to chap that today's Rosh Hashanah. Or even more so than that, and this is the minig. We know the mechaber, the Torah. The Torah in Siman Tavkuf Peyalef brings down that Klal Yisrael is noyeg during the whole month of Elul to blow shofar. Right? We blow shofar. We do tekiah shvarim through a tekiah, like we heard today. That's our minig in Gans Klal Yisrael. The Torah brings this down, and the mechaber, the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch do not bring down this din, and Sfardim don't do this. But the Ramah brings it down in Darkei Moshe, and he brings it down in the Ramah and Shulchan Aruch, that the minig is to blow shofar the whole Chodesh of Elul. Now, from where, from what, from when, where does that minig come from? There's no Gemara, there's no Chazal, anywhere, really, that says to blow shofar during Chodesh Elul. It's not Medina the Gemara. So where does it come from? So the Torah brings down that there's a Pirkei D'Rabbi Elazar that says as follows. It says, the Rosh Chodesh Elul was the time, if you do the calculation, that Moshe Rabbeinu went back up to Shemayim to get the Luchas Shniyas. The second 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu went up to get the Luchas and come down was Rosh Chodesh Elul. So it says, Kayidua, Klal Yisrael, by the first time Moshe Rabbeinu went up, we didn't fool the Satan fooled us. Right? The Satan came and he showed Klal Yisrael a Mara of Moshe Rabbeinu dead. He said, look, Moshe Rabchem is taking too long, he's not alive anymore, it's time to make a new God, and Klal Yisrael made the Egel, Elu Alekechem, Klal Yisrael made the Egel, and Kayidua, our trajectory in Klal Yisrael's history was changed dramatically by Klal Yisrael's misstep to make the Heichel, to make the Egel. So now he says the Pirkei Rebbe the Torah brings down Hashem Pirkei Rebbe when it came time to go for the second time, so it says like Moshe Rabbeinu or Klal Yisrael blew a shofar so that everybody should know Moshe Rabbeinu is going up, the clock starts now, don't worry that you're not going to see him, nothing happened, he's going up to Shemayim to get the second Torah. And the Pirkei Rebbe says V'nesala Elikim b'shofar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like it was a Kiddush Hashem that there was shofar blown, that Klal Yisrael was understanding this, and Memela, we blow this shofar Be'elul, the Pirkei Rebbe just says B'Rosh Chodesh Elul, to memorialize that moment of blowing shofar. Now if you think about it, essentially, and some Rishonim speak this out much more blatantly, essentially what we're doing is we're memorializing the last time that we fooled the Satan instead of the Satan fooling us. Meaning this was again a battle of who's gonna create the image of what's going on over here, who's gonna dictate the terms, who's gonna set the news cycle. Last time when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to get the first luchas, the Satan set the news cycle. And Mamela, everything was at hand. What Klal Yisrael did over here, they blew the shofar, we're setting the news cycle. This is a news cycle that's going to follow our terms, it's going to be dictated by Klal Yisrael's terms. So essentially we're memorializing the win that we did over the Satan with the shofar. We say shofar is our tool in being ma'arv with the Satan, it's our tool in setting things straight. We do it again. Now the Pirkei Rebbe only says to do it for Rosh Chodesh. The Maisa, our minig is to do it the whole month of Elul, and all the Rishonim, the Ashkenazi Rishonim, the Kalbai and the Machzavitri and the Ravya and the Rush, all bring down that our minig is to do it the whole month of Chodesh Elul, which is brought down in the Ramah. But if you look in Lamashal, the Rush or the Ravya, they say Lahedya, that the whole reason why we do it the whole month is La'arviv es Satan. Is because the Satan knows, the Satan's 5,000 something years old, right? Satan's as old as time. So the Satan says, he's a very, very old man. He's been around for a long time. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows about Rosh Hashanah. So we blow shofar the whole Elul. So now he's just confused. I don't know when they're blowing, what they're blowing. It's a constant cacophony of shofar blowing, and I don't know what's going on. It's La'arviv es Satan. This is what the Rush says, the Ravya says, the Kolbei says. It's La'arviv es Satan. For example, we also know I'll just point out that Vesta Mefregin, that why is the Satan such an idiot? Right? How do you fall for the same trick again and again and again and again? I don't have a great answer to that question. I'm open to any answer anybody has. I don't have a great answer to that. I know someone asked of Chaim Kanievsky this question, and he said, little like reverse logic, he said, if the Torah says that the Satan is forgetful, so now the Satan has this tchuna of being forgetful. So don't ask me that why is he forgetting it? He's forgetful, because the Torah said he's forgetful. But, okay, that's a little bit of a circular galgal achayza. So if anyone has a good tarot as to why the Satan forgets the same thing again and again, I'm curious. But just... Yeah, no. It's just something that sounds like that I would understand. That's all, But I saw rather like Lamashal, just to ask this kasha in more words, in more straight words, is Lamashal Rosh Hashanah. We know we blow a very different seder of tkiyas than we blow during Elul. During Elul today we blow tkiyah shvarim through a tkiyah. It's 4 kailas. It's 4 kailas, the whole thing that we blow. Rosh Hashanah, at minimum, every cycle contains 10, right? And we do so many more cycles. So even if he hears the tkiyas, or like it's just the second he hears the tkiyah, his brain goes off. Like, this must be Rosh Hashanah tkiyas. There's Rosh Hashanah tkiyas and there's other tkiyas. So I saw Bertan and Rashi Tarbach and Shofar brings down that the minig in Frankfurt, the old minig was, they would blow. It seems their minig was only to do it on Rosh Chodesh Elul, not the whole month of Elul, and they would do 30 kailas. They would do a full set of 10, 10, and 10, like a full set, like as if it's Mamash Rosh Hashanah, like what we do before Musaf, the original set of tkiyas. They do a full set of tkiyas. And Ramesh Steinbach writes, and I don't know if anyone's been there during Elul, he writes that by him in Harnof, in his shul, on Rosh Chodesh Elul, they're makbid to do a full set of 30 tkiyas, and the rest of Elul, they only do 10. So because that's more targeted La'arviv es Satan. That's going to get them. Now he thinks Rosh Hashanah was Rosh Chodesh Elul, then he has more tkiyas going, he's not sure what's going on, and that's the best way to win him over. Now, Lamashal Vaiter, we know Gans Klal Yisrael's minig is, I think, that on the Erev Rosh Hashanah, we don't build tkiyas at all. It's gebracht and different svarim. This is unclear exactly how far back this minig goes. Meaning it's not 1,000 years that we don't blow shofar in Erev Rosh Hashanah. It seems like the core minig of blowing shofar included Erev Rosh Hashanah, but at some point Klal Yisrael decided to not stop blowing Erev Rosh Hashanah. And the reason given is and again, he was been hearing the shofar. Now I thought, okay, must be the season's over. Then he hears it again tomorrow. I don't know what's wrong with these people, and he lets it go. Now, l'chayra, to answer my original question of how he gets fooled again, see, that's a new trick. That's only a several year 100 trick. I mean, like the tactics keep shifting a little bit. Originally, it was only Rosh Chodesh. Then it became the whole month. Then it became to peel back Erev Rosh Hashanah. So the tactics do keep shifting, a little bit. The minhagim class will keep shifting a little bit, but akbanim, these are all directly, attacking the Satan, being ma'arvez the Satan. So Kilu, built in to shofar blowing is this direct attack. Now I was thinking, I saw the Magen Avram in Simon Tov Kuf brings down. He says Pamachas Eira, that someone was blowing a shofar and he couldn't get a koil out, and the Magen Avram says he picked up the shofar and the wide part, and he said into it, V'hinoyam Hashem Elokeinu Aleinu Masayidenu Karineu. He put the shofar back by his mouth and he was able to blow the tkiyas out. Now I've seen Bali Tkeya, sadly, who have trouble getting the tkiyas out. They have pipe cleaners and they have other things right there, trying to 2 shofars, 3 shofars. The Magen Avram is looking at shofar blowing as this battle. Shofar blowing is this, it's a battle of koiches, so it's a tefillah. V'hinoyam Hashem Elokeinu, like, we want to win, meaning you're asking for success in our battle. It's not that there's too much, it's an interesting perspective. But I'm showing you that this perspective is built into tkiyas in every way. Sayin Rosh Hashanah, Sayin Elul, the whole way through. Now, just to go back to this question of how the Satan falls for the same thing again and again. So we have Rav Chaim's answer. I saw brought down, and this is just interesting, I'll share this with this, I'll end. There's a song that the Elul says Miris by Shal Shudah says. It's Aramaic. It's composed by none other than the Arizal. Who says Miris on Shal Shudah? You know it. You all know it. It's what do you say? No, not that. After that, it's slipping my mind. B'nei Chala. Yeah. Whatever song you have, exactly based on whichever shtibel you grew up in. B'nei Chala is the song that. What do you say? Yeah, everyone has their own tune. Yeah, but B'nei Chala is a nusach. It's the Arizal song. The Arizal made up the song, and if you look at the acrostic, you'll see his name, Yitzchak ben. I forgot. This whole thing I'm blanking on this whole thing. But Yitzchak ben something is signed in to the acrostic of the song B'nei Chala. Now, Baruch Hashem, we don't know Aramaic, so we have no idea what we're saying. But if one was to read B'nei Chala and understand what the words are, in it makes fun of the Satan. It says, Lebar Natlin v'lei Olin Hani Kalbin dechatzifin. Kalbin dechatzifin is the Satan. So this is a kilu, like throwing it down, like not afraid of you. Like it's a song that kilu challenges the Satan and says like we're here to do business, And in certain Chassidish camps, they were marked with not to say this song, not to sing the song of Bnei Chala, because it's challenging the Satan, and you don't want to do that. The Yismach Moshe, the first, Sigit, Hainu Satmar today, Sigit the Rav, it's in Yismach Moshe Alatayr. Yismach Moshe says that, he says the reason why Shal Shuddis is such a halig time, that you could get so much done and there's such an ability, is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears Klal Yisrael getting up to this line in the song, he sends the Satan on an errand. He says, do me a favor, go take care of Sri Lanka, there's something that needs your attention. And by the time the Satan gets back, Klal Yisrael's up to the next song, they're up to Mizmor David, the third one, they're doing the third tune from Mizmor David already. The Satan gets back, and so he says the reason why Shal Shuddis is like this special time is because Hashem sends the Satan away on an errand every time Klal Yisrael gets up to this song. So l'chayra, I know that I saw brought down the Satmar of the Divrei Yoel. He argues on this Yismach Moshe and says it's a different mahalach, but upon him, if for the song that Arizal made up, so that we could say that piyut in peace and get the iris of that piyut in peace, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends the Satan on an errand, one has to assume that if we do go through all this effort, La'arv Satan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, either like Rav Chaim's version that he's forgetful ba'atzem, or HaKadosh Baruch Hu intercedes on our behalf and sends him on an errand to Sri Lanka to give us a way to get a good year in Rosh Hashanah.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.